I don't sound like Christ. I hope y'all can hear me. We had some technical difficulties. Still working on. We can start rocking. Just locking. Give me just a moment. Most High Christ Shalom, Yahweh Shemel Shah Barak Thumb to all the brothers, Yahweh Shemel Thumb Shemel Shah to the sisters. It's the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out of 1 West 125th Street Hall in New York, under Commanding General YAHANNA. We out here in Durham, North Carolina. This is the Friday night Lashawan Qadash class. Priest knows of $1,000 one holding it down, of course. You know what I'm saying? So this being the Lashawan Qadash class, the Hebrew class, that's what the word Lashawan Qadash means. You know what I'm saying? So this is the class where we talk about more cultural things, get an understanding culturally of our history, you know what I'm saying, as Israelites according to the Bible, so-called Blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians, you understand? So the culture of the people, as we always say, you can find the culture of the people in their language. Their language, you know what I'm saying, gives a glimpse into other facets of who they are, you know what I'm saying? And it's no different with us, right? So we try to get back to our roots, you know what I'm saying, as a people, our culture, by examining the language, okay? So I said, we spoke about the phrase Lashawan Qadash. I'm gonna just do it right here so y'all can see. I had to improvise real quick on the camera, so I'm gonna keep working on it so I can get the camera angle to be better, but I had to go live a different way, but no sweat. You understand? But I hope y'all can see the board. If not, just let me know in the comments. Lock it. Okay. All right. So Lashawan Qadash, this is the word. Okay. Can y'all see that? Might be a little difficult because of the light. Let me turn this light up and see if that helps. A little better, right? No sweat. All right, so this word Lashawan, right? Lashawan Qadash, the first part. So who knows what a root word is? Is anybody familiar with the phrase root word? Root word. That's the question. What is the root of something? Or you can use it other ways, but we're talking about linguistics right now or writing. So the root word of something. So if I was to say a word like, let me think. Okay, something as simple as, say this word, I'm sure I'm spelling it wrong, but say indeterminate. I'm sure I'm spelling it wrong. If somebody knows the proper way to spell that word, let me know. But indeterminate, right? Indeterminate is a conglomerate or a grouping of other words to form a new word, right? So the root word, if something is indeterminate, that means what? It means that it cannot be determined, right? I believe there's 3 parts here. You have the prefix, the root, and then like a suffix. But the point is, the root of this, so this word is made possible by the existence of this word, or this word. Determine. To determine something, right? Or to understand something, or to specify the reasoning for something, to determine something, is the root of this word. Okay, it's if you break it down, so think of it in mathematics like the common denominator, right? The common denominator here is to determine. Now you can break that word down even further if you go into, like the etymology of the word, right? Where you kind of understand the different languages that were before, that influenced English and so on and so forth. But right now we're not really dealing with that. Right now we're specifically talking about root words. I'm using this to show you that there's root words involved even in Hebrew. So for example, Lashawan utilizes something, a similar thing that we have in English. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar to what we have in English. In English, we have this suffix, the ing. Now, the reason why I say it's not exactly the same is because in English, the ing doesn't always function the same. You understand? It's not always the same. So, for example, in English, you can say flying, right? Which comes from the root to fly, right? So you can, we will fly tomorrow, but you can also be flying, right? The continuous action form here. But then there's also other forms in English where the ing is used differently. I bring it up all the time. Another way the ing is used in English is called a gerund, okay? That's very specific to English, right? A gerund. In English, this word can be used as a noun, right? That's called a gerund. So it's like saying let me think of a good example where you turn something into a noun by using the ing. So like you can say skating is my favorite sport, right? In this sentence in English, this is not a verb. This is a noun. Because you transferred this thing, which is an action, skating, and turned it into an object or a thing. You know what I'm saying? Skating, or an activity. Skating is my favorite sport. It's now a thing. That's a gerund, right? The only reason why I'm bringing that up is to let you know what I'm about to show you. Don't always think that it functions the same way. Just because it looks the same or has some similar features, English and Hebrew are not the same language. So you cannot try to mix them all the time. You just can't do that, right? So Lashawan actually comes from this root. This is the root word of Lashawan. Lashon. Okay? Lashon is the root word of Lashawan. So what happened? In Hebrew, one of the things that we have to form, because you need things like this, the ing, to form different tenses. Tenses, right? Hebrew, again, also has tenses, okay? And to form this tense, this tense of a continuous action, right? Something that's happening, what we do is we insert a wa. We insert a wa into our root word, okay? So let me show you what I mean. So I'm not going to write out the whole alphabet, but just so you can see it actually in Hebrew. It will look something like this. We write this word in ancient Hebrew, it's like this. Lashon. In Assyrian, it would look like this. Remember, Hebrew goes from right to left. In Assyrian, it would look like this. Lashawan, right? But what we do is, this just means, this word Lashawan means tongue. Literally. It's a noun. It means tongue. Right? It's a thing. But now we want to transfer it and we want to use it in a different way. Right? Because we want to say, this phrase means holy language or set apart language. So a language is not an action. Yes, it's something you do, but again, how it functions grammatically is not as an action. It functions as a thing. If you say, oh, we're learning Hebrew, that's a noun. Hebrew, in that sense, is a proper noun. We're learning Spanish. I speak Spanish. If you say I speak Spanish, the verb in that sentence, the predicate in that sentence is speak. You understand? The I is the what do they call it? Subject, right? But to say I speak Spanish, Spanish is not the verb. So we need to turn this into something useful in that way. Like the same way when you say I speak Spanish or something like that. Right now, it's an action. You know what I'm saying? So, excuse me, it's a noun. But we want to turn it, so I'm flipping it, my bad. It's a noun, but we want to turn it into an action within the context of this larger concept of a holy language. So we don't want to turn it into an action word. We don't want to turn it into a verb. We just want to turn it into a word that describes how we're using this body part. You follow me? This is just the body part. But we want to use this word to describe how we use this body part, what we use it for. And how we do that is by inserting a wa right there, which is the ing, right? So this becomes la, sha, one. This becomes same thing. Of course, this is the same language, right? It's just that this is ancient Hebrew, this is Assyrian Hebrew, and this becomes Lashawan, same thing, right? Which we have our connectors on the ancient Lashawan. Now it goes from a body part. It's no longer just the body part. Now it is the continuous action that you perform with this body part. Because what we're trying to say is holy tongue. Holy tongue. The word tongue is utilized a lot in what's called Old Quaker English. You'll see it a lot of times in the Bible, right? That's why you'll see them say speaking in tongues. Of course, we know that they're not speaking some foreign gibberish language. It literally means language. That's what tongue means, right? So we go from the literal word tongue to this word, Lashawan, which now thinks of speaking. Your tongue has always been associated with with speaking. So now that's what it is, right? So it goes from tongue to, for lack of a better word, tongue-ing, or to speak-ing, the action you use your tongue for, to Lashawan. So Lashawan, right? We can still say, that's why you'll still see them say Lashawan means tongue. But not because it literally means tongue, because it means language, or to speak. Salakia. Give me just a minute. Kind of the same. Just working on some technical difficulties, trying to get fixed, but no need to worry about it, right? So now that's what Lashawan is. Lashawan just means, for the best way to put it, is language. Right? Or the holy speaking. Because that's what the word Qadash means. Qadash means holy, which itself means what? What does holy mean? What does holy mean? The word holy simply means set apart, separate, right? So holy tongue, right? Holy tongue, or set apart language, holy language. That's what Lashawan Qadash means. Okay? So now, for today, we're going to do mostly review. We're going to review the things that we've been talking about. We kind of went a little bit backward in terms of kind of starting fresh with some more of our more basic concepts, which we can never forget, which are crucial to everything we do. Right? You got to get the basics down. I stress this all the time. We're going to go into our prepositions today. Can't get enough of that. We're going to go into that because those are the things. Those are the visual cues. For me, it's probably the most important lesson to be learned when learning Hebrew in terms of speaking it. Okay, because connecting this, which we're going to do, connecting the actual symbols with the pronunciation, with understanding those basic grammatical features, will make it, when we see it on the page, we'll automatically have a better understanding of what we're supposed to read. Let me give a quick example of that so you know what I mean before we move on. And we're going to read the scripture, but a quick example of what I mean is if we're reading the book, if we're reading in the scriptures and we see something like the word Lashawan, right? So we'll leave this on the board, right? So Lashawan, which we know means tongue, right? So if we're reading the scripture and we see something like this, let's say we see, well, I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to use the ancient because we're not generally going to see the ancient. We're going to see it in the Assyrian, so we'll stick with that. Let's say we see, this is also Lashawan, right? Right? And let's say we're reading it and somewhere we see this. We see or we see this. Right? I hope y'all can see that. Right? bring it down a little tiny bit. Bear with me a moment. I don't want this to fall. Salaki. Okay. All right. I hope y'all can see that. Yeah, let's say y'all can see that, right? So right here we have Lashun, right? And then right here we also have Lashun. But they've come down to these different words, right? This one came down to this one came down to this one. So how do we read this? We know, when we've talked about it, the simplest thing to do, of course, is to sound it out. But in Assyrian, we don't have connectors, right? So we know we have a la, we know we have a sha, we know we have a na, and we know we have a wa. Right? And when we first learn the Hebrew, we're often faced with this. We're often faced with this realization that oftentimes the last two letters are the ones that connect. Right? Look at the word Lashawan, the wa and the na connect. One. Qadash, the da and the sha connect. Right? That's not always the case, but when we first learn Hebrew, it's one of the things we kind of tend to notice. And that throws us off because now we're saying, well, are there any? Is this word Lashanawa? Is it Lashanawa? Or maybe it's, because we're trying to figure out the connectors, right? So we're like, maybe it's Lashanawa, or maybe this is a Nawa, Lashnawa. Maybe no. Maybe it's Lashana, Lashanwa. Which one is it? We don't know. Well, knowing our root word helps because, and that's why I always implore brothers, if you can, get a chance to read the English ahead of time. That's very beneficial. Okay? If you can. Because then you might pick out some words that you know, I know that word. So when you see it in the writing, you'll already be waiting for it. Okay? So there's that. But so let's say we know our root word, but then we also know something else. We also know that a wa at the end of a word is the possessive for his. For his. So if you, or he, it can be also he as well. So if you want to say his shirt, you're going to use the root word for shirt and put a wa at the end of a word. Not in the middle, but not doing ing, at the end of a word to make it his shirt. If I want to say his brother, it would be Aqua, right? Or it could be also Akiawa, right? But we know it ends with the wa, right? So when we see this, like this, we're more inclined to say what? It's Lashunwa, his tongue, if we're talking in context, right? The na and the wa are going to be connected to form Lashunwa. It's like here. The sha and the na are going to be connected, right? So if we were to write this in ancient, it would look like this. It would be la, sha, na, wa. Or we go la, shun, wa. The shunwa, his tongue, right? You could also, we would know, like this one right here. If we write it out, it's going to be ha. You know, we got a ha, a la, a sha, and a na. And we'd be faced with the same dilemma because we don't have connectors. And we might say halashana. Halashana. Sounds right. It makes sense when you hear it. It sounds like Hebrew. Right? But, and maybe that is a word. I don't know. But if we've read it before and we can learn that, okay, the word tongue is in there, that would help. But even if that's not the case, we're much more, we're on a better track knowing that this ha at the beginning is a what? Is a preposition. Actually, now we're using the word preposition somewhat loosely here, because it's only a preposition in terms of its position on the word. It proceeds or precedes the word. It's at the beginning. Think of it like a prefix, right? But this is actually, grammatically speaking, is an article. It's called a definite article. In English, the definite article is the word the. At the beginning of a word, a ha in Hebrew is the definite article. It's the of Hebrew. So that's how you say the in Hebrew. Okay. So knowing that, and knowing how our root words, whenever we talk about root words, our root word for the most part is going to stay intact. We're just going to attach things to it. But we're not going to change the sound or the dynamics of our root word. Knowing that, right? Now we can say, oh, maybe that's the, and this is the word for tongue, lashon. So we're not going to say halashana. We're not going to say halshon. We're not going to say halashna. We're going to say ha lashon. Ha lashon, the tongue. You understand? That is immensely helpful for us when we're reading in the Sabbath service to know all of our prefixes, which is why we're going to go over them today. Okay? Before we do that, I want to get a quick scripture I'd like to read before we get into our particular lesson. If you could just bear with me just a moment. Actually, I'm just going to move the camera real quick. Salakia, bear with me. Just a moment. Right, I hope y'all can see the board still. Like I said, I know it's not the best as far as the camera goes. Right? It's not the best situation. But I'm going to try my best to make it work. Okay? Most high in Christ, okay? It's kind of close, but it is what it is. We'll figure it out. All right? All right. So now, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6. Salaki. only certain days? Gotcha. We go into the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 6. Okay. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
You can use the speaker in the mic, can't you, sir?
I can probably use the speaker in the mic.
You won't speak in the mic so I can read for you.
Okay, what?
Salakia, Israel, bear with us. Deuteronomy
7:6. There we go.
Testing 1, 2.
Okay.
Salakia, I'm ready when you are.
You got it?
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
All right.
The Lord thy God has chosen thee to be a special people
Right.
unto himself.
Now we keep hearing this word people, right? What does it mean by people? What does that mean? Because the Christian might say that we're all God's people. So what does it mean when it says people here? And how do you prove that it means
So, you want me to go ahead and answer?
that? Yeah.
Okay. Well, for one, the Bible was only written for blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, the 12 tribes, the 12 lost tribes of Israel.
Sure.
Throughout the Bible, it's only speaking, it's only speaking to the lost tribes or the 12 tribes of Israel.
Okay. But they may say, well, how do I know that? You're just saying that. How do I know that the Bible is saying that? In this verse, it says people. He chose you to be a holy people, a special people.
So I would have to go to the Apocrypha, where it says, from Adam come we all. But, there's a chosen people that the Lord has chosen above all people.
For sure. That's one place you definitely could go. But read on what you got there. Let's see what it says.
Kind of on concept. Chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
Above all. So right there, that tells you that people can't be just anybody.
Kind of on concept.
It can't. Because if it was just anybody, then who are we going to be above?
Right.
If we all the same, there can't be one people above another people if we're all the same people. I told you on here.
Kind of on concept.
Okay. Right? So it says we should be a holy people. What does the word holy mean?
Set apart.
Oh no, I did that on purpose because it was reflected off of this. But no, you can I'm not sure it was.
Salaki, I believe the sister answered you, sir.
Okay, what was that, sis?
Set apart.
Set apart, right? Set apart or separate. Right? So if we're a holy people and we're set apart and we're separate from Dwada, and we're set apart, we're separate from everybody else, right? Dwada. Then what should we do? What does that mean for us as a people? What does that mean for whoever this is for, right? Because right now we haven't even delved into who these people are. We of course know it's blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians, right? But this people, if they're holy, then that means what? That means what about their existence? I don't want to throw you off too much, but think about, it says they're holy, so what? Read from the top.
Kind of on the top. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
Unto who?
Unto the Lord thy God.
So we're not just, holy is not just some vacuum term. We're holy unto the Lord. So think of it like the Lord is, as like any other brother, right? You might have a collection of shoes, or you have a collection of different clothes you have. Some brothers got a collection of cars. Floyd Mayweather has a collection of cars, right? And you might have a bunch of cars, but one of those cars is your special one. Okay. One of those cars is the one that you go in the garage, and it's like in like a room, a temperature control room, with like some kind of sliding door, and you gotta get a code to access it. That's the special one. Right. So think of the Most High as like the Floyd Mayweather. There's a bunch of cars. It's all his. Right. The whole earth, the universe, everything is his. Right. But there's one particular group of people that he's separated and said, this one is mine. Right. This one I'm keeping close to me. Okay. You understand? So knowing that, what should we do?
What should we do?
What should we do? The people who are chosen. I made a gesture just a second ago. A physical gesture. If you caught it, it might help you. The Lord is trying to do something, and we should.
It's a lot. He's trying to separate us from everyone else.
True. Absolutely. 100% correct. But he's trying to separate us from everything else and do what?
Keep us away from everybody else?
Yes. By doing what? Think of the gesture that I just did. I'll do it again. I'll give it to you. I did a physical gesture when I mentioned the Most High separating us. So the Most High is trying to do something. Let me give it to you. Don't sweat it. I said the Most High was trying to do what? He's trying to separate us, right, and bring us
closer to him.
Closer to him. Right. He separates us from them by bringing us closer to him. Okay. So what should we do?
We should strive to be closer to him.
That's it. That's it. We should be like, okay, and get closer to him. But what do we tend to do? It's like a baby. You know what I'm saying? Now, you know what I'm saying? The water park, like how I shy. I just had a son. You know, right? Just had a son, and they're right. And you know what I'm saying? And he's a baby. He don't know what the heck is going on. Right. And you know, I pick him up, and he don't do too much resistance. But every now and then, when he's really in a bad mood, he's kicking and just wailing and everything. And he ain't trying to do. He wants whatever he wants. Whatever he needs at that moment, that's what he's concerned about. Okay. And we tend to be like that. We fight against the Most High. Right. We scream and kick and push and everything because drugs are so delicious in the ghettos of Durham, North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? Heroin is just so delightful in Harlem and all these places across the United States and other countries. And we want it. We absolutely want it and nothing else. Jill taught an excellent class yesterday, of course, as per usual. And that was kind of something that he made mention of, is just how much Eve in the garden wanted to be free. She wanted to know what it was like. You know, it's like when you go to college and they say, oh, you never did this? You never did this? You never did cocaine? You never smoked before? You ever hear that? You ever hear like somebody say, I've never smoked weed? And it's like, a shock. And then everybody around them wants them to do what? Want some smoke. Everybody, like this brother, I don't smoke. I don't do that. But everybody, now I got to be the one to make you smoke. Like smoking in Friday. Go ahead.
What you're saying is so heavy because it without you even knowing that it points to me, it points to me. Mm-hmm. I have a cousin, you know, back in the day when I was in, you know, whatever, and he did not smoke. Mm-hmm. He barely even drank. You know what I mean? And I was a heavy smoker, or Roger was a heavy smoker. But, you know, when I knew that he did not, I tried to engage him to do it. And I, you know, gave him every reason to do it at the end of the day. Right. So, you know, what you're saying is so heavy.
That's what it is, right? We fight. We want other people to fight, to validate our fight. We know that, you know, I shouldn't be smoking his weed or whatever. So it's like, I can't do it by myself.
Right.
When they say misery loves company. So it's just you bound to do it. Like I said, like Smokey and Friday. Like Craig was just minding his own business. By the end of the think about that. Now Craig got fired, but by the end of the movie, he was getting shot at.
Right.
He wasn't getting shot at because of his job.
Right.
He was getting shot at over marijuana,
Right.
over weed that he didn't even smoke. Or he
Right.
smoked it, but that wasn't his thing.
Yeah,
He's not a smoker. He literally said it to Smokey. He said, I drink. I don't smoke. And Smokey gave him every reason to do it. Peer pressured that brother and almost got him killed.
That's right.
You understand? And that's what we do. We fight against the Most High instead of drawing closer to the Most High. Let's read the scripture one more time.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
Now we know that people is a race of people, a group of people. It's not just your friends or your buddies in the church.
Right.
It's a race of people. Now knowing that, we know that race is just a modern word for nation.
Right.
Right? When we look in the Bible, we don't see race, we'll see nation. Right? And a nation is comprised of what? What is a nation? What is a nation? We talk about it all the time. But what's a nation?
It's a lot here. A nation is a particular race of people.
Absolutely. But what is, I want the definition. I would use my.
You want the definition of
Yeah,
it?
see if we can get the definition. Try to find the one in the New Oxford American Dictionary. If you can use your phone. If you got an iPhone,
the probably ain't in there.
That's going to give us more of a breakdown of like the word history and everything. We want it.
Count.
You got it?
This is the Oxford language definition of the word nation.
Mm-hmm.
A large body of people united by common
United. Yep, go ahead.
By common descent.
Common descent, what's that mean?
Bloodline.
Bloodline. I love that word. It's an excellent word, right? That means they share a bloodline. Every person in this room and every person who's allowed to enter this room and every I.S.U.P.K building, school across the world, we share a bloodline. If you are Black, Latino, or Native Indian, we share a bloodline. Okay, we literally come from the same people. We are literally family.
Right.
Literally. Go ahead, bro.
History.
So we got a common history. Who heard about the Maccabees? Familiar with the Maccabees? Are you familiar with the siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD? Are you familiar with that? Are you familiar with King David slaying Goliath, that big tall African? Right? What about the transatlantic slave trade? Familiar with that, right? You're familiar with how they put smallpox in blankets so they can destroy the tribe of Gad here in the United States, right? This is shared history. We share this together. We share this trauma together. If we were to go back, and all of us in this room can go back 300 years right now and go find our great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers, I promise you, each one of our great-great-great-great-grandfathers more than likely is on a plantation somewhere, you know what I'm saying? Because Sadak is Bunyamin, his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was probably down there chopping sugar cane. You know what I'm saying? My great-great-great-great-grandfather was probably somewhere in the South picking cotton. Sis, are you a Judite?
Yeah.
So then your grandfather and my grandfather probably was somewhere near each other. Your family's from like North Carolina?
From DC.
Oh, from DC originally. Oh wow, amazing. Okay, I was just there last week. No, I'm bugging. I was there yesterday. That's crazy. No sweat. But that's the shared history, right? That's what makes a people. Continue.
Sir. Culture.
We should not ask what I want to get to. Shared culture, right? Now, the so-called white man shares culture, right? Do you understand that the police department, I seen it with my own eyes, right? The police department in New York, when a police officer dies, I remember I was on the bus, I was going to work one day, so when I still lived in New York, I was like 2012, something like that. And I was on the bus going to work, and there was a cop funeral. And what do I hear while I'm on the bus? I turn my headphones on, I'm like, I see just hundreds of cops. And I hear them nasty ass bagpipes. I hear them Scottish bagpipes. Get going. That's what I hear. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy, right? But that's their culture. you know, go ahead, please.
Like, if I may, if I am correct, and I believe I am, when they came over here, the Scots and whatnot, and the gang violence that they had going on, the government gave them jobs and they became police officers, and firefighters, and things of that nature.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what happened. That's the history, straight up. That's why even to this day, that they still think about it. It's America. Why the heck are they playing bagpipes? Right. I know they do it in Chicago too. I know y'all got a lot of them out there, right? So why do the cops always play bagpipes in the fire department and all this? Because that's their culture. You understand? And it precedes them. So you're a race of people or a nation of people are tied to their culture. Okay, so we got their culture. What about the so-called Chinese man? Does he have a culture? Does he still participate in his culture here in America? Prove it. How you know?
Because there's a Chinatown in every metropolitan.
Give that brother a hand. There's a Chinatown in every metropolitan area in America. There's a Chinatown in LA. There's a Chinatown in DC on 7th and H. There's a Chinatown in New York. There's like 3 of them. Okay. You know what I'm saying? We got the Chinatown that everybody knows is the one in Manhattan. But where I'm from, Flushing, there's a Chinatown on Main Street, all up and down Prince Street, all of that. Just Chinese people everywhere, Koreans, all of that. Go ahead.
So is it literally called Chinatown? Because in Chicago, you literally get off in Chinatown.
Right.
Like, that's the name of the town.
Gotcha. So in Chicago, you got an actual Chinatown. The only one in New York that's actually called Chinatown is the one in Manhattan. Gotcha. It's in Lower Manhattan, downtown near Houston Street. That's literally like the same thing. You get on the bus, it would be like Chinatown. Right. It takes you to Chinatown. Gotcha. Right. The other one it's not called that, but you go there, you know where the hell you are. Right. But why is that? They keep their culture no matter where they go. East Indians. Gotcha. East Indians. I'm in North Carolina, and my neighborhood that I live in is predominantly East Indian. Gotcha. And guess what? The whole place smells like curry. The whole complex smells like curry.
Exaggerating.
No, I'm not exaggerating. The whole thing smells like it because that's their culture. Who doesn't have a culture?
Salakia says, Blacks, Hispanics,
Simple. We don't have a culture. We don't have. If you ask a black man what he is past slavery, he doesn't know. He has no idea. You know what I'm saying? The sister says her family's from DC. You know what I'm saying? I'm from New York, but my family's from down south. This brother, he's from Chicago, but his family's from the islands, right? But what about before that? Now we know here, but ask any other brother, they don't know. Brother, where you from? I'm from Harlem. Where you from? Where's your family from? South Carolina. Right. Yeah, but I mean, like, that's what if you ever get into a conversation with a foreigner, that's what I was going to say. They look at you, which is disgusting because they know the deal. But they look at you. I've had that happen to me where I'll be like, where you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from Queens. And they're like, no, where you from? Like, oh, you mean like my family? Oh, they're from Bamberg, South Carolina. And like, no. What country are you from? Like, what are you talking about? Before I was in the truth. That's the conversations that we have because we don't have that cultural connection. Right. But we're learning now that we do have a culture. And it does go back before slavery. It goes way, way back before slavery. And more than that, our culture is better than everybody else's culture. Okay. And that's why we learn this. That's why we learn the ancient. That's why we learn the Assyrian. That's why we learn the proper grammatical usage of the wa inside of a word. That's why we learn how to sound out words, how to use connectors, the proper articles, and all of these things. Because we're trying to get back to our culture because it helps us do what? Get back, remind,
to our heritage.
Yes, but get back and closer
to our history.
To the Most High. That's right. We use this. Everything we learn is to get closer to the Most High. So read on the definition.
Kind of the one kind.
And then we're going to move on.
Culture or language inheriting a particular country or territory.
Right, and so the last part was language.
Concept.
Right? People are united by understanding. What was that?
No, I said inheriting is inhabiting.
Right. Races are united by their languages as well. So that's why it's so important for us to do this. All right, but you can go ahead and drop that, brother.
And Salaki, if I may.
Good.
And what you're saying is so heavy for the simple fact that Puerto Ricans and Mexicans think that the language that they speak is their culture, when
right,
indeed is not.
Which, damn right, give him a hand, right? Because they use that to think sometimes they're better than us.
Right.
They think, well, we have a culture. Nigga, no, you don't. No, you don't.
Salaki, their culture is the same as ours: rape, murder, and
exactly. There's a book called, I think it's called The Rape of Paradise, that talks about that. That's how they got Catholicism. That's how they got the Spanish language. The Gadites and the Taino Indians were not speaking Spanish 600 years ago. They weren't speaking that at all. Okay, that's something that was forced upon the West.
So, lucky if I may, if you actually do the research, they were finding the Assyrian is the ancient Hebrew. They were finding ancient Hebrew like writing on rocks and things of that nature in Mexico,
right,
in California.
Right, because they are our people. Right, we are the same. Right, and they traveled. You can read about them coming to this side in the Apocrypha. I forgot which book, where it talks about the 9.5 tribes that traveled, I think, up to the land that no one had been to before. Paraphrase. Okay. So now, with that being said, last week we got into some different topics or whatever. I want to focus a little bit more now on. We're going to get into the grammar of it a little bit. We're not going to spend too much time on the ancient. And why is that? Because while the ancient is so excellent and we love to use the ancient as much as we can, it's so beautiful and it's so simple with your connectors, it's lovely. The reality is that we're not going to read it as much. We're going to spend most of our time reading what? The Assyrian Hebrew. Okay. So we need to be familiar with that, okay? And then what we're going to talk about today, so alphabet review, we're not going to do too much vocabulary. Wasn't going to talk about the names of the 7 heads. I might still do that. I'll save that for last if we have time. But I do want to talk about prepositions. And possessives. Okay. So now, let's go ahead and do a quick rundown of the ancient Hebrew. Right? So we know that Hebrew was read from which direction? From right to left. No, absolutely correct, sis. From right to left. Okay. We know that this is something we talked about last week. We know that every single symbol we see is what? Every symbol. The Hebrew alphabet is comprised entirely of what kind of letters?
Consonants.
Damn right. Consonants, right? Meaning what? What does that mean? When we say that, what are we saying?
Would that mean like we don't have like the Americanized vowels? We don't use it in the way that Americans speak.
That's, you know what, brother? That's absolutely a great way to word it. I've never worded it that way. That's a great way to word it. We just don't use vowels the way Americans, well, not just American, but other alphabet systems utilize vowels, right? Now, without going into too much detail, we're not going to rehash that, but so much. What we talked about was the fact that there's a difference between a vowel sound and actually being a vowel, okay? Because when you look up the word vowel, it will tell you that a vowel is a letter that sound is formed with by producing through the air passage with no friction, right? So long story short, it just means as opposed to B, where you use your lips to cause friction that changes the sound that passes out from your, from your vocals, right? B, C, D. You're using your palate to change the sound. With vowel sounds, it's open. There's none of that. A, E, I, O. There's no blockage. But that's just a vowel sound. And that can throw you off. Because somebody might be like, and I've gotten into this battle before, with someone online who thinks they know Hebrew. And we'll say, there's no vowels in Hebrew. And they'll go, oh, what are you talking about? That's crazy. No, you don't. There's no vowels in Hebrew written out. Yes, there's an ah is a vowel sound. Ba, da, right? You cannot speak a language without vowel sound. It's impossible. Because if you were to try to say, imagine trying to say Hennessy without vowel sounds. What would you have? What would it sound like?
Yeah.
Something crazy. But you wouldn't be able to say it, right? You need vowel sounds. But here's the difference. And Sadak eloquently described it. I love it. I'm probably going to steal it, right? We don't use vowels the way they use vowels. So here we go. We were just talking about the breakdown of Lashawan, right? How it forms this way. We say Lashawan Qadash, the holy tongue or the holy language. All right, everybody, y'all got that, right? Okay. So here's the difference. In English, you want to say Hennessy, right? You want to say Hennessy. Now, if I'm spelling this wrong, that's tragic, but it's possible. Things like that.
H-E-N-N-E-S-S.
I spelled it right? Wow, that's crazy. Hennessy, right? How many vowels are written in this word? Two. Sure.
Vowels.
Vowels.
A-E-I-O-U. You get 3 E's, 1 Y.
Right.
But it's only 2. The E and the Y. Oh,
I
see what you see.
No, you're right. You're right. Well played. You're right. Not how many, but I mean not how many different vowels. How many times does a vowel appear?
4 times.
4 times, right? We'll say for the sake of argument, because it's sometimes Y, and you have an E here, we'll say 3 times. We'll leave the Y out of it, right? But this is how vowels function in English and in other similar languages. They form the nucleus, remember since we talked about it, they form the nucleus of a what?
Word.
Not a word. The building blocks of a word, or the pronunciation of a word, are called syllables. So the vowels, you need the vowels so you can say Hennessy. 3 vowels, how many syllables? 3. Hennessy. Right? Here's the difference. Why we say the absolute fact you can cut somebody with this, showing that they don't know Hebrew and you know way more than they do. Even if you've only been in class a handful of times, you are a better Hebrew scholar than they'll ever be. Because this is how it is in English. In Hebrew, it would be like writing this. Not exactly, but this is how our language functions. Okay? There are no written vowels. We don't have any symbols that equate to vowel sounds. We don't have that. That's why we can say with such confidence that there are no vowels in Hebrew, because it's an absolute fact. There are no symbols that equate to vowel sounds in Hebrew. None. Here's what I mean. So we're familiar, last week we spoke about the tetragrammaton, right? What we have is we have consonants, and the vowel sounds are implied. They're just there, right? We don't have to think about it. We don't have to formulate it. We don't have to write anything. We just know, okay, we got some consonants, and obviously we got to have some a sound to connect it. And what we use is the short A sound, the ah sound, to connect all of these consonants together. You understand what I'm saying? So we wouldn't write Hennessy, right? Hennessy. We would write Hennessy, and we would just know Hennessy. It's implied. We would know it. Now, of course, this is a strange example for this thing because we don't have E's in Hebrew. Okay, so don't get that twisted. I'm just giving an example of how that would look in English. That's why Mr. Doc said it's so correct. And we don't have this in Hebrew at all. We just don't. Okay. So when we write, let's write an ancient Hebrew word, right? Let's write the ancient Hebrew word for excuse me? Probably Salakia. There you go. We would write it like this, right? Right, with a sa, la, ha, and a ya. Right? And we write it in we transliterate it. It's like this. See, because now we're transferring it to English. So now we are writing vowels. But if we were to eliminate these, or if we were to think of it like, good.
Is that connector supposed to be on the end?
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna put the connector.
No, I'm asking. I'm just asking.
Oh no connector on the end.
No
Except for
connector.
this, you can do like this.
Oh.
It would be yeah, you can do it like that. Sometimes you might even actually see them not even put a connector. If you see some ancient artifacts,
It would just be the one in the middle.
it would just be one in the middle, just let you know those are connected. But we do this to make sure, you know what I'm saying, to stay familiar, right? But again, sa, la, ya. How many syllables is that? 3 syllables. So right now we're dealing with ancient Hebrew, and so does Syrian. No vowel symbols, none. None of these symbols represent vowels. However, what we do have, where in English, again, see, look in English, how many vowels are in this transliterated form of Salakia? How many vowels do we see?
Technically, 4. There's a Y.
I know, but that's what we're saying. We're leaving Y out of it.
We're leaving Y out a lot.
There's only sometimes Y, right? It's not, in this sense, it's not functioning that way.
Right.
So we see how many vowels here?
1. 3, but 1.
Yeah. How much, excuse me, you worded right for Sadat. How many times does a vowel appear in the word? 3 times. And then we have how many syllables? 3, because vowels in English are the nucleus of a syllable. How do we form syllables in our language? It should be obvious by now.
The connectors.
Give that brother a hand. Damn right. Simple. So if I see 3 connectors, no matter what direction they are, how many syllables is it? 3. Is that what you're telling me, Scott? No. That's a fact. You know, you can take any word. I can take this word. I can say the water, right? The water. How many syllables is that? The water. So I know it's got to be 3 connectors. Period. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. So what? The water. That's what tells me how many syllables to have, what connects and what doesn't connect. Right. You know what I'm saying? Not any kind of no vowel symbol. And that's why we talked about it. We were here. Looks like we were here the week before. We weren't here last week, of course, because we was out there in New York rocking out for the cookout. Can you get a hand clap for the cookout up in New York? Ooh, go ahead, brother, please.
Salakia, sir. It was a dope experience for me because that's my first time speaking in Times Square. So
That's a lot of people's first time speaking. That was my first time speaking at Times Square.
It hit different though.
It hit different.
It hit different.
It hit different. It hit different. Let's just say I was on a podium in the middle of Times Square, like speaking is something else.
I can't wait to see the video.
I seen the pictures, man. You say you look strong.
You saw the pictures of me speaking?
Yeah.
Where?
Somebody put them up.
I gotta go through and check that.
Yeah, there's a fly picture. I think the sister put it up.
Sister?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man, this whole thing was excellent. I had a great trip, of course. You know what I'm saying? For me, it hit different being back home, but just more importantly, being with my brothers and the sisters as well. Just you can't beat it with a stick. But now, so as the doc said, 3 connectors, 3 syllables. But each one of these is a consonant. Okay, that's how it functions in the words. And that's why you'll notice when we transliterate like this Salakia, when we do this, this is for the purpose of what? Reading. We only do it like this because we're reading it. We need to know. So if somebody who's not familiar, because if I write this, they'll be like, "What in the hell is this?"
Hieroglyphics.
Hieroglyphics, right? Right. Even if I write it in Assyrian, they'll be confused.
Right. Chinese.
Right. Because guess what? Even if I write it in Assyrian, they'll be like it's Chinese, or they'll try to read it like a so-called Jewish man, like Amalek. They'll see the Assyrian and they'll start telling me L'chaim and you know what I'm saying, bat mitzvahs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, that is not how you say it. The word is Salakia. Okay? I'm spelling it out so you can say it. But if you notice, your scholars, when they transliterate Hebrew words, especially important Hebrew words, you know what they do? They leave out the vowels. They don't put them there. That's why they have a thing called the Tetragrammaton. If you could, Sadak, look it up real quick. Real fast.
Spell it for me. Tetragram.
Tetra. T-E-T. T-E-T-R-A-G-R-A-M-M-A-T-O-N.
Tetragrammaton definition.
Yeah.
This is the Oxford language definition for tetragrammaton. The Hebrew name of God translated in 4 letters as YHWH or JHVH.
Right? That's where they get the nasty Jehovah from. If they know the original, that's why they said it, is YHWH. Now somebody read my mind and tell me if I do the thing that we just learned about, because we know these come from the consonants. Follow where we're going with it, right?
Yahweh, Yahweh, right.
Because it's consonants, but we know that the vowels are implied. They're there.
That's crazy.
That's how we get Yahweh. But they, because they're Yiddish speaking and fake Israelites, or not even fake Israelites, so I don't even know what to call them, Amalek, whatever you want to call them.
How does they pronounce that though?
They turn the Y into a J, which is why in the remember when I said that you remember when we said the Bembe festival? Who's one of the festivals? Bembe, who knows? Durham got a bunch of ridiculous festivals.
Yeah.
It was one of them, and I got into a battle with some cat talking about the Hebrew, and I said to him,
Oh yeah, dude, the last.
I said that the modern Hebrew comes from Greek, and he looked at me like I had 2 heads. Why did I say that? I said that because of the relationship between modern Hebrew and what you see in the Greek. When you read the New Testament, you're reading a Greek translation. That's why it says Jesus. It says Jesus in the New Testament when there is no J in Hebrew. There's no J. Same can be said about Joshua. Because guess what? Jesus and Joshua had what? The same name. That's the same name. You know that, right? No sweat. I didn't know either.
Yeah, that was
Crazy, right?
It was in Sabbath service when you brought that out.
Yeah, Jesus and Joshua is the same name. If you go, that's why I'll be telling you, I was already reading the Sabbath service, right? And you'll see Yahawashi in the Old Testament. It's talking about Joshua. Joshua's name was Yahawashi.
Right.
Jesus did not have some magical name that only he could have. He had a common Hebrew name. Right. A lot of people have the name Yahawashi. In fact, if you look in the Apocrypha, in the prologue to the book of Ecclesiasticus, the brother who wrote it, his name was Yahawashi. It was a common name. But yeah, so they took these different letters and changed it. So they took the J, the Y, made it a J. They left the H. They took the W and turned it into a V. Again, they left the H. And then they injected some of their Yiddish, modern Hebrew vowels, and they put This is the great value version. This is the off-brand.
This is the dollar store.
This is the dollar
version
of this, right? This is crap. Nonsense. This is the real deal, and it shows exactly what we're talking about with the concepts. Okay, so we're gonna just run through this ancient before we get into this Assyrian real quick. And then talk about its prepositions and possessors, okay? So let's get it. So we're just going to run them down, all right? We're going to do it together, all righty? Here we go. Ah, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ka, ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa, za, qua, ra, sha, tha. Who wants to go double? You want to try this?
Yeah.
Give it a go. Let's go. Damn right.
Oh, okay. Do I gotta stand up and do it?
No.
Okay.
Send it to somebody.
Okay. I, ba, da, ha, wa,
Da.
da, da, ha, wa, za, cha.
Gotcha. Years up for that. No sweat. So it's not cha. The only reason why we write it like this is to distinguish it from this other one, from ka. This is actually not a ka. It's softer. So this one is ka. This one is ha. Ka. A little softer. You'll get it. It takes time. It's ha. See, Sadak. His name is Sadak. It's the ends with a ka. We say Captain Kataza, but technically, see, I kind of like softened it. Some people say Captain Kataza. Technically, his name is not Kataza. It's Kataza. Captain Kataza. It's much softer. It rolls different. It's not Captain Zaryak. It's Captain Zaryak. Captain Zaryak. It's like there's like it's like a bridge between the ka and the ha. Yes, yeah.
What I was gonna say is it's almost like you want the C to be silent, but it's not.
Right. But don't take it too far.
Right.
Because we don't want to say
Hot
we don't want to sound like the Jewish cat that comes to them. We don't want to do that. It's just think ka, just ka. Softer, right? So that's what you want to work on. You'll get it, sis. I know it's the first time. But just don't say cha. That's not what it is. You better off saying ka. Go ahead. Perfect. Go ahead.
Is that a K or?
It's a T.
Ta.
Mm-hmm.
Ya.
Mm-hmm.
Ka.
There we go.
La.
Right? And you can see this should be very familiar to everybody. This is literally where the letter L comes from. Go ahead.
Ma.
Mm-hmm.
Na.
Mm-hmm.
Za.
Mm-hmm.
I. Pa.
Mm-hmm.
Za.
Tazah. Now, in ancient, if we were actually speaking our language as it's originally intended, we wouldn't say Tazah. It would be a little bit closer. It would be more like Tazah. It would be like swifter. The connection between the T and the Z is not Tazah, because we already have a Ta and a Za. It's not Tazah. It's like Tazah. That's how we would do it. But because we're learning, we're already speaking English, and we're learning from our different accents and things like that. We speak it how we speak it. But that would be the most optimal way to say it. But go ahead, sis.
Okay, Zah, Ka,
Qua.
Qua,
That's a qua. Go ahead.
Qua, Ra,
Mm-hmm.
Da, Da.
Damn right. Here, sister. Excellent. Excellent. Right? Yes, Doc. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let me hear it.
Ba, da, da, ha, wa, za, ka, ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa, za, qua, ra, sha, da.
Damn right. Beautiful. Now, before we get into the Assyrian, let's recall that every single one of these symbols is what is called a pictograph. You know what a pictograph is? Okay.
And almost in relation to hieroglyphic, it's like a pictorial letter.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the hieroglyphic because I wouldn't want to confuse people and make them think they're related. I know what you mean. It just means that every single one of these symbols represents something.
Right.
They're not arbitrary. It's not just some like, oh, this is no. There's a reason why that symbol looks like that.
Right.
Okay. Let's see if we can remember some of them before we move on. Who knows what the Da represents? And if you're watching online, you can also, in the comments, you can just also let me know. Close. You're right. No, sis, you're close. It's the door. It's the door of a tent, or the doorway, the path, right? Daleth, or Dalaf is the word, not Daleth, that's what they call it. Dalaf is what that word comes from. Who can tell me which of these symbols represents a fence?
Salakia, sir.
Okay.
I will go with the ka.
And you'd be correct. The ka represents a fence. Which symbol represents a snare or a trap? Yeah.
I will go with the ta.
At the top. The ta actually represents, the word is tanaf, and it represents a basket. Looking at it, you may not see it, but think of a basket, a wicker basket, but you're looking at it from above.
And then above, ka. That's it. Okay. The a.
No, the ah is from the word for cow or bull, Allah, right? It's representing the cow's head with the horns on the side.
Last guess, the qua.
And right, give that brother a hand. Have you ever seen the picture of an ancient mousetrap?
No, but I do remember the game Mousetrap. And the game Mousetrap had the mousetrap and it would drop down.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that looks like.
Google ancient mousetrap. You can feel about Shah. See if we can pull up an image to show everybody. You should be able to see one. Immediately, you should see it, and it should look like a quad sideways. See it? God, sir. What's right first? That's it.
Yep.
Yep, that's the one, right? That is, yeah, show them on the screen if they could see it. That is literally why the qua looks how it looks, because the word is, I think, qua. Is it quanah? Quanah? I can't think of the word right now. I don't have my notes, but it means a snare. Qawash. That's the word, qawash, and it means a snare or a trap. And that thing that Sadak just showed on the screen is what that symbol represents. Okay. Who knows what the symbol is for for head.
Is it Ra?
Damn Abraham, damn right. The Ra.
Really?
Yeah, because it's crude, but the Ra, imagine this is the back of the head and the neck. It's a very crude symbol. But this is, like, imagine somebody standing, this is sideways profile. This is the back of the head, this is their head, right? It's sideways. And there's a reason why that, we talked about it last week, why that is that way. The first word, if I'm not mistaken, of the Bible is bara ashayaf, which means in the beginning. The word head also is used to mean the beginning or start of something.
Mm-hmm.
But this symbol, why do these symbols look? These symbols didn't always look like this. They didn't. There was a form before this of these symbols. You can look up the ancient symbol for they'll call it the Aleph, but the word is really Allah. The cow's head or the bull's head. It didn't look like that. It was a lot more intricate. Like it was. I cannot draw to save my life. You can Google it.
You said
Just look up ancient. Look up ancient Hebrew Aleph. ALEF.
ancient. I can draw that. It looks like a bull's head.
Is it? That's the one. The one that did upper left. That's the one. If you want to draw it, please, by all means, get down. Just erase what we did the Hebrew top. Yeah, Yahweh. So what he's about to draw is the symbol for the ah that used to be. Kind of. Something like that, right? Yeah, damn right. I can't do that, but of course, that's what the symbol used to look like. You can guess why that's not the symbol anymore. Why might somebody not want to draw that for the eye? Yeah.
Salakia, sir.
It looks like a penis.
Don't give him a hand. That's not the reason. The reason why.
But you said don't.
The reason why is because it's just not practical. You ever have to write a grocery list?
Mm-hmm.
You ever have to write something down? You ever have to take notation or something? And you got to damn near. I do it when we got to do a major council or something, or minor council, and
Abbreviate everything.
right, and I'm just writing, and it's just like, yeah, Sadak, make sure that the signs, I'm just writing, Sadak, signs, fix, you know what I'm saying? Abbreviate everything, because I gotta write it really fast. Or if I'm in a hurry and I need to write Salakia, and I need to write out my list before I go do whatever I have to do, I have to be able to just say, I need some, let me get some grapes, let me get some tomatoes, what I need, also let me get some soda. I need to be able to write fast. But what if every time I wrote a word, I had to go, okay, write okay. It's gonna take me goddamn forever.
Right.
It's not practical.
Right.
It's not
But
practical.
that is practical.
Huh? But guess what? This is practical.
Right.
That's practical. You know what I'm saying? I can write that very fast. You know what I'm saying? If I had to write, and this is from a brother who wasn't born doing it. But if I just had to write my name, you what I'm saying? I can just write it because it's a practical, useful writing system. And that's why this is what we consider the ancient or the first form of it, because it's the first form that's practical, that we can use in our daily lives. Most High in Christ. Now, let's talk a little bit. What's time check, Saddam?
It is 8:37.
We no sweat. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about these prepositions, because let's get into it. All right. So, prepositions. Let's check something real quick. Bear with me. We're just gonna talk about the main ones for now. Simple. Right. So, the reason why I want to talk about this is because, again, when we're reading, let's do that. Let's do it real quick. Go to the blueletterbible.org on your phones if you could. Go to blueletterbible.org. Okay. We are going to read the first sentence in the Bible in Hebrew. Because we're kind of running short on time, I'm not going to go into heavy detail on the Assyrian. Oh, you got this up?
Okay.
Count. I'm gonna write it out.
You want me to read it in English?
If I could use your phone.
Okay, I'm on the board. I can see.
I'm gonna write it out. Count. So this is Assyrian. Okay. Now I should read it.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 1 and verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
That's it. That is Genesis 1 and 1. It's Genesis 1 and 1 here. Read it one more time in English. And I'll
Kind of
read it
going
in
faster. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
Right. Which in Hebrew, you would say in Hebrew, it's bara ashayaf, bara abahayim af, hashemayim, wa'af, ha'aratazah. That's the same thing that brother just said in English in Hebrew. Okay? Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about, we're going to go talk about a couple of the ones that appear here. Okay? Because there's a lot. But let's just talk about some of the main ones. I want to focus on over the next few weeks on the prepositions because they'll help us with reading. We mentioned before that the word for head is what? Ra'ash. It's literally right here. Ra'ash. That is the word for, like, physically a person's head is Ra'ash. But metaphorically, it also means the beginning of something. So it's coupled with a prefix, a preposition here, right? And another kind of construction here, right? And we got some other words. And there's one here as well. Let's do it like this. So this word means beginning. Ra'ashayah means beginning. Ba is a preposition that means in or on. Okay? That's what ba means. So that's why it literally says in the beginning. In the beginning. So ba ra'ashayah. In the beginning. In the beginning, Salaki, bear with me. He's on my phone. Right. Salaki. So it says, if I can see it. In the beginning, or in beginning, bara'ah means create. Created. Right? Alahayim means powers, but it's translated as God. The word God just means power, right? Right? The power or the powers. So Alahayim is actually a plural word. It means powers, but think of it as the Most High and His legion of angels. So they'll say powers, right? Like they say the powers that be, right? Even though it's the Most High Himself, but the Most High, we know that the Most High Most High doesn't get up off his throne for nothing. You know what I'm saying? He don't do. It's no different. I always use this example, if it makes sense to people. It's like when we say, Commanding General YAHANNA has done it again. Or Commanding General YAHANNA is doing a food drive in Durham. Look, he's doing it, right? Commanding General YAHANNA is more than likely not even there at all. But it's commissioned by him. The work it's his work because he's the one allowing it, pushing for it, making it happen. So the Lord works the same way. When his angels do anything, they do anything of his volition, right? So that's why you keep the word Elohim, even though it's plural, it's still the Most High doing it, okay? So if we were to transliterate this, we could just take and sound it out as we've been doing, right? We can just say what? And this is what we basically have to do in our head as we read. Ashayath, Bara'ah, Elohim, right? Of course, we know that also this is the word, the singular word for power in Hebrew is what? Yes. So what?
I don't know. I don't know.
You just said it.
Wait, power?
No, in Hebrew.
In Hebrew.
I'll give you a hint. Fake non-biblical religions use this word and they worship this word even though this is not God's name.
You mean Yahweh?
It's written in bold.
Oh.
It's made that be written the way you used to see it.
All right. It was the book. Oh, Allah. Oh, yeah.
No sweat. That's where that word comes from. Allah just means power, but it is not the Lord's name. Okay? But they take it and they worship Allah, but that's not even the Lord's name, so whatever. Right? But this is what we got so far. We're actually reading it, we're reading the Bible in ancient Hebrew. Bara'ah Shayat, Bara'ah Elohim. Right? Then the next word is Af. Right? Which doesn't really have a direct translation. It's just directing you to the next part. This definite article. Because this, and this is another one of our prefixes we're going to learn. The other prefix is ha, which means what? The. So, ba, Bara'ashayat, Bara'ah, Elohim, af. Then we have this word right here, ha, Shemayim. Now, Shemayim, the root word actually is mayom. Who knows what mayom means? Tom checks it out.
51.
Come. What does mayom mean? It's the root the letter ma. This is the word that from which it comes, or better yet, the word that it corresponds to its pictographical origin. Mayom. No sweat. The word mayom means water. Okay, so mayom means water. Now, shamayim, that's another one of our prefixes, right? This is what I'm saying, but I won't write it here because this is actually his own word, so we won't go too deep. But shamayim means heaven. Or heavens. Remember, it's plural. Yom, that's another thing. Remember that yom at the end of the word. So if you see a Hebrew word with yom at the end, it means it's plural. Also, if you see yun, that's also plural, but that's a feminine plural. Right? Right. Heaven, or heavens. But what does ha mean? Ha means what? The, right? The heavens. And then we have the same ah. Like I said, this doesn't have a direct translation. This just focus. This kind of is a word that leads you in the direction of this ha. Right? It's just something in Hebrew that I gotta ask about it exactly what it represents. Right? In beginning created the Most High the heavens. Right? What does aratazah mean? You might be guessing. The Lord created the heavens and what else? The earth. Aratazah is earth. Which also, you could also say it means land. Right? And this ha is the same. But these prefixes, these prepositions, appear even in the first sentence in Hebrew. They make sense of things. Ba, in the beginning. Ha, Shemayim, the heavens. Ha, Aratazah, the earth. Knowing these helps us read this. Because when we read it, we won't say, if I was reading this, right, I know that this is separate. So I'm going to say, Ha, Shemayim. I'm not going to say, Ha, Shemayim. I'm not going to say, well, this one would be pretty easy. But it simplifies the process that I know, oh, this is the Ha, Shemayim. Ha, Aratazah. I'm just going to read it out because I'm familiar with the prepositions. It's helpful in that way. So let's finish our transliteration, right? Bara'ah, Alahayim, Af, Ha, Shemayim, Wa. Also, this one means and. We didn't even do that one. The Wa means and. Hashemayim, Wa'ath, Wa'ath, then Ha, Aratazah. Okay? And that's pretty much the process that goes on in our mind when we see it. So when we see on the left, when we see that, when we see those symbols, what we're trying to do is the very process on the right in our head. Follow me? We see that and we try to sound out those words. We're trying to identify our prepositions. And this other thing, we're also going to learn about possessives. So we don't have time, so we'll do that next week. We shall identify all the different grammatical features, so that way we can pinpoint what parts need to be read a certain way. You know what I'm saying? So since we see like Ra'ashiyah or yum, right? Yum is not a preposition. Yum is we would call that we would probably put that in the possessives category, or possessives, prepositions. It's another category I can't think of. But yum is what makes a word plural, right? And yum goes at the end of a word. So knowing that will help us, because we will not say what? We won't say ha shamayama. Follow me?
Yeah.
That sounds crazy. We won't say ha shamayama because we know that yum makes a word plural, right? So we're going to be familiar with it. We're going to see, oh, that's shemayim. We know that word. We say ratazah. We know that word, right? Well, we see bara'ashiyah. Same thing. And this is going to help us moving forward. So this is the process that we're going to do in our head. We're going to take every symbol we see and turn it into this, so we can read it out. Okay? And as more we learn the grammar, more sense it will make, the easier it will be for us to read. Okay? Well, time check.
59.
No sweat. We're right on time. All right, well, we're going to clip it there. We're going to end it. Didn't get into go to everything I wanted to go to, but that's no sweat. Next week, that's what we'll do. We'll get into more, but actually fully flesh out the prepositions and the possessives. Okay? I wanted to end off with the 7 heads. Does anybody know who the 7 heads are?
The original 7, or we have now?
But right now we don't have 7 heads. We got 7 generals.
7 general.
We don't have 7 heads. They used to call them the 7 heads because they basically started the school. Right? Anybody familiar with any of them?
Name wise live.
No sweat. Yeah, good morning.
I think, I want to say Arya, I think one of them.
You're right. Are we? I was one of them.
I think Lahab was another one.
I was one of them.
And I don't remember the third one because Abu Bivens was not one of them.
Albert Bivens is not one of the 7 heads.
Because I remember having.
He taught the 7 heads.
Come on. Because I remember. Okay, so he actually. Okay. He taught him? Okay. Because I had a conversation with his brother last week, and he was asking me the same thing. I said, Bob. I said,
No,
Bivens was not.
No, he's not. No, he's not one of the 7 heads. But Albert Bivens, like I said, if I'm not mistaken, Albert Bivens was killed before the school was started.
He was cool. Yeah,
He was killed before the school was started. But he was with them and taught them. Other than so, the 7 heads, we're not gonna go into detail, but the 7 heads are Masha, Arya, Shar, Yeshaya, Lahab, Kazak, and did I say Arya? I didn't say Arya. Okay, yeah. That's the 7 heads.
But it's like you said it again.
It's Arya, Masha, Lahab, Shar, Yeshaya, Kazak, Masha.
You
said Masha already? So who am I missing? Arya, Masha, Lahab, Shar, Yeshaya, Kazak.
He said, Ayat, what was that?
Arya,
I got him.
Lahab,
Got him.
Masha,
I said again.
Masha.
Okay.
That's Moses' name.
That's 6. So what's 7?
So on the list, what you got? Arya?
You got
Yeah.
yeah, you got
Arya, Ha, Zak, Yasha, Shar, Maisha, and I think
Yeshaya.
yeah, come on, I got that.
So there's 7.
I'm listening to the plan. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7.
That's 7?
Got it.
Oh, no. Most I got, man. My math is all off, right? But yeah, those are the brothers who basically started the school. We're gonna break down their names, get an understanding of their names. Also, we're gonna do the 7 generals and their names as well. Before we head out, who knows whose name means joy? We said the 7 generals' name means joy. What happens? Which of the 7 generals' name means oil?
Wait, what's the first question?
So which of the 7 generals' name means joy?
Yeshaya.
7 generals. Yeshaya means my savior. Yeshaya is Isaiah's name.
So then it must be either, I know it's not Arya, it's not Lahab, not Kazak, not Yeshaya, so then I'm thinking it's.
No, 7 generals, but we're not talking about 7 heads, we're talking 7 current.
Okay. Oh.
That's what.
Okay.
No, that's over there with him.
I'm talking about the 7 current generals. One of their names means joy.
Isaiah.
That's a young
I
man.
think it's it's not Gubal. I think that's golden warrior.
No, Kabal Amav means seeker of truth. Kathum Gabar is golden word.
Okay. So then I know I'm saying it wrong.
You're not.
Something else, man. Block.
You know what you're Mayak.
Khan, that's it.
I know you're not going to tell me that it's General behind me.
No?
No,
Okay.
Jeremiah's name means loyal.
Oh, I remember that. No, it's General Yahanna. His name means.
That's Commander General Yohanna's name means joy.
Really now?
That's what General Yohanna's name
Yeah.
means. He's joyous. But we're gonna get all of them, write them down, get all the Hebrew, Most High in Christ, the water, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, next week we're gonna continue with this, get into these prepositions and possessors, and learn some new vocabulary. I know y'all like the vocabulary, so I'm gonna bring some new vocabulary for y'all to learn some new words, so in order for you to add to the mix, okay? Most High in Christ. So is there any questions in the room? God, Most High in Christ. And with that, I'm gonna pass over to priest and officer Kaparia.
Oh, so no mic? Okay, cool. I.S.U.P.K. security announcements. We're the I.S.U.P.K. out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yahanna. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes to the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or a sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from their head to speak to a brother or a sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6 months period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers chapter 18, verses 21, and Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. Ma'asra, which means tenth in Hebrew. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the Treasury Department or a teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. upcoming holy convocation is the memorial of the blowing of the trumpet, September 25th. And just as a reminder to all Akim and Aquatin to check on social media such as I.S.U.P.K.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for I.S.U.P.K events and materials. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he has to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, black pants, shirts, headband, or scarf.